Let's start off with a barbecue today. Yes, we can have barbecue with God. I want to bring the barbecue, if you've got meat or fish, I want to bring that in today and compare that with your prayer life. God says that we are the salt of the earth. If we read Mark 9 verse 5, Jesus himself is speaking here. He says, salt is good, but if salt has lost its saltiness, how will you restore the saltiness? Have salt within yourself and be at peace and live in harmony with one another. When you have a barbecue with meat or with fish, you mix the spices and the salt together and you rub it into the fish or you rub it into the meat and then you place it on the fire. Some people just like the meat heated up. Some like it well done. However you like your meat, it needs spice and it needs salt. Otherwise, it is tasteless. And so is your prayer life. God said, we are the salt of the earth. And he compared that and he gave us an example with the altar of incense. If you look at the altar of incense, it's very interesting. If you look at the incense, there's 4 elements, 4 spices for the incense. But everything needs to be mixed with salt. And you are the salt. So your prayer life, is that salt that is on the earth. And whatever you pray will be rubbed into people. If you give them too much, it's not well enough to eat. If you give them too little, it's not tasty enough. So how much salt are you giving through your prayer life that flows into the world? But there's one thing that's very important if you use spices and salt on meat, and that is the consuming fire. Hebrews 12:29 says, God is a consuming fire. And many people know how to pray, but they know how to pray outwardly, but they never allow their prayer to become part of their lives. That means there's a lot of spices, but there's no salt. And we cannot infiltrate the world if we don't add the salt. Your prayers need to become part of your life. You need to be drenched with the salt. You need to be drenched with the spices. You have to be drenched with your own prayer life. And then you will read in Revelation 8, it says, it takes your prayers and it put it on the altar of incense. Even in the tabernacle that Moses built, the prayers were placed on the coal. You never put it on flames. You don't put your meat, your fish on the flames. You put it on the coals, the hot coals. And that's the same that you have to do with your prayer life. You have to bring it to God. God is the consuming fire, but God is also love. So the moment we talk about love and consuming fire, we're talking about the same thing. So your prayers need to be based on love for other people. So often we just pray through our situations, but you need to bring your prayers to God. That means you need to be spiced with prayers. You need to be spiced with whatever you want, because you are the salt. Those spices need to be mixed with salt. And then, whenever you apply your prayers to the meat, you apply your spices to the fish, you have to bring it to the altar. You need to bring it to the sacrifice. You need to bring it to the altar, to the fire, to the hot coals. And then the fragrance will be released. Do you know what is the spices that you need in your prayer life? Do you know what you need for your prayers to be mixed with your salt? Let your spices, let your prayers become part of your life. And are you willing then to step in and say, God, I'm willing to become a living sacrifice? Romans 12 says we need to become a living sacrifice for God. And you can only become a living sacrifice if you allow the spices of prayer to become part of your life and allow God to bring everything, the spices and yourself, and you lay it on the altar where the hot coals are, where the fire of God is. That means where the love of God is. Then it becomes an aroma to God. Go make a study. What is the 4 elements of the incense? You will find that in Exodus. And then in Timothy, it gives you the 4 bases of prayer. But there's one important thing. If you do all these studies, you are the salt. Your prayer life needs to flow through you, not only through your situation, not only through other people. You have to allow your prayers to soak you, because it needs to be mixed with salt. And then only we can present that to God as a living sacrifice. So today, start your prayer life. Not out there, but let your prayer life become part of who you are. Don't only pray for your circumstances. Don't only pray for whatever happens out there. Start to pray what is in here. And then you will see the results. Why? Because your prayers will become an aroma that is part of God. Then you will read in Revelation 8. God will smell that. And the answer will be thrown down to you. And earth will accept the answer of your prayer. But it's only when you, as the salt, are mixed with the incense and it's placed on the hot coals. Be a living sacrifice in your prayer life, and you will see the difference, and you will experience breakthroughs in everything that you pray. Why? Because your prayers are the aroma, and you are willing to become the salt of the earth. I bless you today, being the salt in your prayer life, being the salt in every place where you go, being the salt. Make everybody so thirsty because you're the salt that they will start to pray with you. And then we've got a stronger aroma to fill this world. And then God will answer your prayer. I bless you today, being salty for Jesus Christ. Shalom.